Oh, that's the horn. So, welcome to a special RiderCamTV video today. And today we are out on the Honda CBR1000RR. Not a bike that I would usually choose to ride, but our friends at Damerells got hold of us and said, would you like to ride it? We got to ride every bike. So this Honda CBR1000RR, it's got about 190 brake horsepower, about 114 newton meters of torque. It's about 196 kilos, and it's got a 16 litre tank. So it's good for about 100 miles, obviously depending on how you ride it. Now the seating position for this bike is, as you would imagine, your knees are around your neck really, but that's a sports bike for you. And to be fair, coming from an adventure bike, the seating position, once I've got my hips set in place, it's actually not bad. Not bad at all. The wing mirrors are okay. They don't give that much visibility around, but providing you pull your elbows in, you can see everything. But this is a Honda bike. This is the 2007 model, and talking to Colin at Honda, looking at the bike, you'd be forgiven to think that it just looks the same as the old version of the 1000RR, but in actual fact 90% of this bike has been tweaked from the old one, and 90% of this bike are new bits of machinery, bits of frame, and has been tweaked from the old version, so it is a new bike. The power delivery is immense, and I'm sure if you've ridden one of these sports bikes, you will be so impressed with the power of these things. They're like pocket rockets with turbo on them. They're just amazing things. The styling of it is just beautiful, and even though the seating position is uncomfortable for me coming from an adventure bike, it's actually very comfortable to sit on. Even though my seating position is quite far forward, I've not got any weight on my wrists whatsoever. I'm really surprised about that. My neck, I'm not having to strain to keep my head up to see the road as much as I thought I would. And look at that amazing TFT screen there. So not only are KTM putting things like that on their bikes, but Honda are doing the same thing as well, which I just think is the way forward. It's 2017 and we should have that functionality. Now, there are a whole host and lots of stuff that I would probably get wrong if I tried to remember it all, but there are different modes for everything on this bike, so much so that they've even got, I think, 2 programs that you can set up for yourself. So if you imagine having a BMW or an Audi or something like that, and you've got 2 key fobs, and one of them set up for you and one of them set up for your partner or somebody else that rides the bike, drives the car, then basically that's what the settings on this do. So if you were in setting 1, you could set it up for your power delivery, your traction control, all of that good stuff. But then if you came and selected the other mode, you could then use it for that as well. So how immense is that? Now this is the RR, it's not the SP version, and this doesn't come with a quick shifter as standard, although you can have things like quick shifters fitted, and I'm led to believe that they're not the cheapest, but nearly everything on this bike is configurable to you as the rider. And that's quite impressive really, because to be fair, this is a sports bike that should be on the track, but it's a sports bike that they've made for the road, which I think is just amazing. And if you're the sort of person that really likes sports bikes, I've got no doubt that you'll like this one. It's really smooth. I've got no vibrations coming through the handlebars, no vibrations coming through the pegs. And if you're coming from an adventure bike or a more sit-up and beg bike, you'll find it very difficult for the first couple of minutes just to get your hips to sit right, and I found that with this bike, and I had to get off or stop within, I don't know, about 20 seconds, 30 seconds of actually riding it, because my hips were almost popping out of the joints. But now that I've readjusted my hips and got back into the seating position, I'm finding that this is a very comfortable bike. And like I said when I reviewed the S1000RR from BMW, and you can check it out there on the card, that I could never understand why people would even entertain having a bike like this. This is just over £15,000 worth of bike, and my GS Adventure is about the same amount of money. And it all depends what you want to do with the bike and what you're buying the bike to do for you and what you're going to use it for. And spending that sort of money, I really never understood why people would do that to buy a sports bike that should be on the racing track to go on the road. But having ridden the 1000RR from BMW and the CBR1000RR, I can really see the attraction, because it's telling me in my head the speed and the smoothness and the agility of the bike is telling, it's almost like dopamine, I think, to my brain, because my brain is literally saying, you want to go faster, you want to go faster, and the bike's saying, you do want to go faster, and look, I've got all the fast power and everything you need right in this little package, so do it, do it, do it. So for that reason, I wouldn't have one of these, because I would end up either killing myself or I would end up losing my license very quickly, because to stay at 55, 60 and a 60 is just torture on the brain, because you just want to go, you just want to go. But that said, this is a Honda, and with Honda, what do you get? You get a world-class made bike, not knocking any other manufacturers, but you get a bike that is smooth. You get a bike that, even if you look inside the parts of the engine that you really wouldn't normally look, it's refined. The people that have made it have really thought about how things need to be put together on a bike. Oh, that's the horn. And that sound, oh my God. Now for you gadget geeks out there, much like me, this TFT display is so good. It's got a light sensor, so it will change when it's dark and change when it's light, so you're not blinded by it. You can configure nearly everything that shows on the display, even so much so that you can change the CBR logo down the bottom to a Honda logo if you wanted to, or put other logos on it. Now the brakes are very good. As you would imagine, they have got to be good on a bike like this. They have got to be exceptional, because the amount of forces that you're putting on them when you're braking, especially if you're braking under a hard load. Now this sort of bike I've never really taken around some twisties, so it'd be interesting to just see what this bike is like around some twisties and just see how it handles, because it just seems to just drop into the corners without any effort at all. Third gear seems to be its kind of sweet spot at this sort of speed that I'm doing, 30, 40 miles an hour. I'm not fishing around for the pedals, for the gears or the brakes. The styling of this bike is lovely, and there are so many modes and rider comforts that you can tweak and get and change for your bike. It is just absolutely amazing. And the fact that it's so small, you can fit through tiny gaps like that. But what a powerhouse. What a powerhouse. God, that sound. Now I'm getting some vibration through on my right hand on the throttle side, but I don't think that's the bike. I think it's because I'm not used to riding one of these sports bikes. I'm kind of holding on for dear life. But at slow speed, really impressed with the weighting of it. It's extreme. I mean, it's only, well, it's less than 200 kilos in weight, but you can certainly feel that it is so well balanced. And in some respect, you would expect it to be well balanced, because it needs to be, you know. I don't feel too squished up. I feel just right. All of the switches are kind of in the right place, although when I came off that roundabout, I did beat my horn. Because I would have said that for me, having the indicator stalk just above the horn would have been a little bit better really, but you know, that's just through getting used to the bike. I have noticed that there's obviously the engine, you sat on the engine like all bikes, but you're hugging this engine, and there's quite a lot of heat coming out of the left hand side onto my left thigh and left knee. So I'd imagine if you're riding on a cool or cold day that it will be really very good for you. But round corners, it's just planted. This is obviously the Euro 4 version. They've got the little reflectors on it to indicate that it is. But wow, now that is nice. That is nice. And when I was on the BMW 1000RR, I was saying how uncomfortable it was, and how I'd forgotten how uncomfortable it was very quickly. And I can feel that my neck's getting a little bit, not stiff, but a little bit achy, but that's because I'm not used to this position at all for this bike. However, I'm not even worried about feeling uncomfortable, because in reality, I don't actually feel that uncomfortable on this bike. I don't know what Honda have done, but I just feel in the right place. So it's got some corners coming up. If these cars weren't here, it would be quite nice to see what it was like around the corners, but yeah, it seems to go in the corners quite nicely actually. What a beautiful machine with a bit of power. You know, its third seems to be a nice spot for it to be in. You know, you can counter steer really well on this machine, and it just goes into the corners like you would expect, like nothing I've ridden before. What an immense bit of kit. And I think you'll agree, my view of the styling of this machine is just incredible. I love the look of this red, black and white. I think it just really makes this bike pop like no other that you see on the road really. To get position lights on this bike give you that little bit more presence on the road. As you can see, even in bright sunshine you can clearly pick those out, and you get white LED lights on the front of the bike when the bike is running. And looking from the front, Euro 4, got the Euro 4 reflectors on there, and see how tight that is in there. Massive radiator, but you're not going to be taking this off road and having issues with stuff flicking back up there and damaging it. But look at the styling. Massive brake discs so that you can stop, taquito brakes, really good brakes. Now this is thinner than the other version apparently. When they reviewed it, like I said when we were riding, 90% of this bike is new. Even though you probably look at the wheels and think they're the same wheels as the old one, got the same frame as the old one, apparently 90% of this bike has been reworked to bring it up to 2017 standards and to bring out the new model. And it just shows how much attention Honda pay to their manufacturing and their engineering. Just if you were able to look in behind the engine block, you would see that the engine is just as smooth on the inside as it is on the outside. They've really packed a lot of gadgets and gizmos in there. They've even got things like this so that your knee will go on there, and it's a lot less slippery than the rest of the frame, so that you've got some decent grip. The can, look at that can. That really does show you that this is a powerful bike, and that can make some beautiful noise that we'll hear in a minute. Massive huge space in between the underneath of the seat and the wheel, but it's not an issue on a bike like this. And then coming back down to the wheel, see they've got angled valves on there. Please, 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 other manufacturers, take note of what Honda are doing. Put them on there. It's easier to put air and stuff in there. Now the pegs, they are very high up compared to an adventure bike, as you would imagine, and it took some getting used to actually get the position comfortable, but they're in the right place. The brake pedal's in exactly the right place. I wasn't fishing around for that, or on the other side for the gear indicator. They were just in the right place, and it just felt planted. And this one's got a two-piece seat, Doesn't look as though it's very big, but it's just enough for your bum to sit there and be comfortable. It's really thin so that your thighs and your legs hang over, and you can really hug the bike and really hug the engine and feel real part of riding this machine. The side stand doesn't look much, but it's really substantial, very substantial side stand, and it holds the bike up. No center stand, as you obviously aware on a sports bike, they don't have them. It's extra weight, and a huge great chain there, which isn't an issue. And when you come round to here, they've even got a longer guard than a lot of other bikes, which is great to stop all the oil and stuff flicking all over your bike, because people that own these bikes really want to keep them clean. Loads of gadgets and gizmos in there, because you know Mark and I are really technical, so they're gadgets and gizmos as far as I'm concerned. Now, the view from the rider, and I know that you've seen me talking about the bike as I've been riding and seeing it, but look at this beautiful screen, TFT screen that comes on. It changes, it's got a light sensor in there, so it changes so it doesn't blind you when it's night, and dims down and goes brighter in the daylight. You've got all of your conventional warning signs here and above the top, but you've got different user settings that you can put on there, so they mean a whole host of different things, and I'm not going to go and try and get them all wrong, but you can set up the power, the traction control, you can set up everything on this bike to your liking and how you want to do it. You can even change the logo down here to a logo of your choice if you wanted to. The switch gear, as you would imagine, quite minimal, but it's got everything on there. It's really well labelled, both that side and the left hand side, and you've got buttons everywhere. Now, when I was riding and I came off the roundabout, I did hit the horn instead of the indicators, and for me, I think I would have switched those around, but it is what it is, and you just get used to it. So the wing mirrors are really nicely shaped, fit within keeping of the bike, although they're not that maneuverable, and I've got them as wide as they'll go, and I had to keep moving my elbows out the way, so that's something to think about if you are going to be riding one of these bikes. And that screen has been lowered down, so it doesn't offer much protection to you as a rider without you actually leaning down as far as you can. But coming from an adventure bike that is like the old granddaddy style of biking, where you've got clean air around you all the time, I didn't really feel that it was much of an issue at all on this bike, because it's all about fun, and that's the overriding factor for me. This is a fun machine. What a fabulous bike to ride this Honda CBR1000RR is. It's not my sort of bike that I would usually ride, but I've had so much fun on this today. It's absolutely unbelievable. And thanks to BMW on their 1000RR, and then Honda with this one allowing me to ride them, it's really shown me why the sports market is there, why the super sports market is there, why people would buy these bikes. Because before we started this channel, I was hell-bent on that I would only ride an adventure type bike, and I wouldn't be riding something like this. And for the simple reason that I didn't understand. My brain just could not compute why someone would spend £16,000 on a bike they could kill themselves on really easily, lose their license really easily, and that was meant for the track. And through riding these sports bikes, I can get why people want to have this bike, why they want to have other super sports bikes, purely because something in here, when you're riding that, the sound is so nice, it looks so great, the bike performs so well, that it was telling my brain, and it tells people's brains, I'm sure, and fills them with dopamine like we have on our mobile phones and stuff, to just go out and ride it and have pure pleasure. Whereas my bike, my adventure, is more of a pleasurable bike, but it's also used for work and a whole host of different things, and it's a really multifunctional tool. This, I'm sure there's people out there that would use this for going to work. I personally wouldn't. If I had the money and I wanted to buy one of these ones, I would use this as a real good fun factor bike that's got the performance that you could have on a track. And this Honda blows the other ones that I've ridden out of the water, certainly the BMW, no disrespect to BMW, but it does blow it out of the water slightly, because you can change so much on the bike. It's got a new TFT display. It might look much the same as the older version, but Honda have changed 90% of stuff on there, so you know that it actually has been reworked. And I absolutely love it. If you've liked this video, give it a massive thumbs up. It really does help us a ton. Hit that subscribe button down the bottom and the bell so you know when we've released a new video. Give us some comments down in the bottom if you've got one. If you've got one of the BMWs, what do you think of them? Am I right in thinking that it just tells your brain that it's an amazing bike to ride? I must give a shout out to Damerells, Honda, specifically Colin and Honda and Damerells and all of their team down in Indian Queens in Cornwall for allowing me to take out this beast of a machine and have this smile from ear to ear. It's been absolutely amazing. So be sure to check us in the next video and we'll see you next time.